What are you working on right now?
I just had some general ideas I figured I'd throw out to anyone who joined here. These are kind of things that have been on my mind as far as how I could improve my system, or like what I'm thinking Tana could be useful. First is like dynamic memory. So Andrew and Fiss put out this video on how they're building agents, and they mentioned dynamic memory in there, and I'm a little at odds with the wording because it seems strictly additive right now, which is cool. And there's definitely like this, it's self-improving. So they use an example of using the agents to create language tags. So it creates new words in the language you're trying to learn, and during the conversation, you just feed that back to the agent or the command. It harvests the words, puts them in the tag field format. You've got new words. And then also harvest like the current problems in your language learning. It adds that to a search. You could feed those searches then back into the agent. Cool. But in my mind, to be truly dynamic, there needs to be a portion of subtractiveness and or updating in like maybe a what's the term I always resonates with me, like with GitHub, what do you call it? Version control, like a commit, like a version control of memories. We're like, all right, this memory was relevant before, it's no longer relevant. And like this is stuff that's coming up in my system where I'm like, it's mostly action oriented, but I'm trying to figure out how to merge kind of the daily thoughts that come up with the long-term vision. And then as those new thoughts, maybe there's some portion of those thoughts that are going to change the long-term vision. And it's like, yeah, I can do it manually, but it's just more of a fun challenge. It's like, okay, how can I get the AI system set up to, and that kind of goes to this next point where something I've been playing around with. This is like this cluster batcher tool. So like I break down sentences into simple propositions, and then sometimes I don't like the level at which things got broken down. So I could say like plug in a group of statements here into batcher, and then just press this button, and it combines into like a single paragraph or a single node. So in my mind, this could maybe be a pseudo solution to the memory, where it's like you've got these maybe memory facts, and then you could say, AI, grab the relevant memory facts, put them in the batcher. It'll cluster them together into a single memory unit. And then I'm still not sure. So like they use something where they're like, oh, you could manually then trigger like, okay, this is a relevant memory, or this is a relevant point, but there's still a manual aspect to it. So I'm chewing on is like, how could we nudge this towards, just within the bounds of like the tools of Tana too. It's like, you like, there's certain, like we can't have AI run commands itself yet. We still have to manually do that. So
totally. And even like, it'd be great to have like, somebody asked for it like a few months back. It was like search fields, basically, like instead of just having like a field that was just already dynamically a search node, because fields have such extra power in the command system than just a regular node does. And if like that could if the field itself would just be a search node, it would do so many cool things, versus just being part of the supertag template. But I can see, like, for example, with the batching, it's like if you defined those, and then had good criteria for the search node, there's a lot of possibilities there. But I mean, you can still move stuff from search nodes into fields, that could be part of a manual step or whatever. But yeah.
In one of their examples, they put a search node within a field. And that's something I played around with before, because it's like, it's almost one of the easiest ways to call it from the AI, because then you can just reference the field and it grabs the children. Issue with
and
that.
You could potentially use like the options from like, not the options from supertag, but the regular options, and then make the options source be a search node.
I never even considered that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's it's a good way to like it's a good hack it's like functions really similar to making it an options from supertag field, but it like the potential options, it's different because it doesn't actually like live query all of them, but it makes them options. So you could have like, if you want to say all of your, just in a project example, let's say if you didn't want all of your hashtag projects, you just wanted the ones that were active, you could define a supertag, or define a search node that was, projects, status, not done, whatever, and then make those the options, effectively like filtering the supertag. But it doesn't have to be just a simple single tag. It could be any number of, combination of that. Anything you can make a search node do.
I like that.
Similar to how you can also like add that to an AI prompt and do the expand references, right? Like as a way to make like the prompting more dynamic is just like include a search node and do expand references.
Yeah. That's the issue I was coming across was, I think this what you just said might solve is if I just make if I put a field in the template and a search node in that field as like the default state, it's fragile because it's the grandchild layer because it's within the field. So like it won't, like we could do the command K, update search node on all instances. Whereas there, it's like you have to update default field, and I've messed with that before on like a very like pretty much my action to-do list node. And when I attempted to update on all instances, it's a lot of instances. it bogged down quite a bit. But that's interesting. Putting it as options seems like it could be more robust too, because then if you, less likely to.
I've done that for one use case I use that for is I have a like when I have a make.com integration that sends like a form response for like a new clients, right? So they fill out it's when they do like an intro call. There's like to do like an intro call, they like fill out a form, and the contents of that form become, I forget what the tag is, but it's like, hashtag intro form, let's say. And then each of those, I want to like query that data for their intro call. And so I have like a field that looks for that supertag if they're not attached to like a call already. So basically like, and I just do that with a checkbox. So it's like if it's checked or not checked. And so when they get added to, and then I think I have an on added to set the checkbox for me. So effectively like I one or two things that like what the search node will find, because they get used on the meeting calls or whatever. But it's a way to like, always show me only the intro calls that have not been assigned to the first call with the person. And then I query, I expand that node down, and then I get like, the responses to their form or whatever in it. Hopefully that made sense. But it basically like it's self-limiting. It like self-limits the selections that are available by like having just the simple like act of doing the checkbox. I'm pretty sure that's how it does it, is with the checkbox. Should look.
Do you want to pull it up?
Yeah, let me see if I can find one. Yeah, so if I do spacer, so there's none. So here, let me do take over. Let me see if I can do this now. So if I do like an intro form, so this would be normally like filled from, the person filling the, the form out, right? So let's just say Acme Co, whatever. And then if I have a meeting and then that meeting has an intro form, it'll only show me like Acme Co, and then it will automatically check it. So then the next meeting I do, if I go into the intro form, I'm pushing space and there's no more available there, right? Because it got like checked off. So if somebody else filled an intro form out, Acme 2, whatever, and then they'll be available to come on there. And then again, when it loads, it checks it off. but the configure field on this is looking for like the unused intro forms. And so it's like intro form not done. And then on the field itself, I believe I have it on there. There's just a little set status on child added. So once one of those once those items get added to the node, it just checks the status as done. So it just happens when I add it automatically. And that's just a way to like, it's always looking for intro forms, but I only want it to look for the ones that haven't been attached to an intro call yet. So that's sort of like the logic behind it. I'm not sure how that relates to like the batching and cluster stuff that you were showing me, but it's a fun mechanic that, because these just come in automatically via make to like an inbox, and it allows me to be like, if I call, then I can just attach this to it, and then again just expand and see like the relevant details on like what's helpful for that call when I have it with them. And that's just that's all via cal.com. And then sending a webhook from that to make, and then using the API schema to translate it into the relevant fields in Tana. Hopefully that all makes sense.
A little bit, but it got me going on another tangent. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this. Is one thing I've been trying to tackle is conditional field options. The most basic sense is like I have an action, and then I have say 10 life areas, and each of those life areas has 10 projects. Right now I have a field for areas and a field for projects. If I could use AI, I could find, out of the 10 areas, all right, it could pick which one pretty accurately. But now I'm giving it a list of 100 projects.
Yeah, a lot of tokens per call too. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas if I could say, okay, now that I've selected the area, only show me the projects that belong to that area, only choose from the projects that belong to that area. That's something that like, there's a lot of use cases that I can't figure out yet.
I don't know if that's possible, because I don't think you can make the query related to like what it can't see, because the configuration panel can't see what you've selected for that task or whatever it is. I don't even know it's a tough one. I feel like this is something that gets asked quite a bit, and I'm like seeing visions of Darren's response being like, it's not possible yet, but conditional logic is has to be something that's on the radar for like at some point in the next year, because there's so much power that can happen from that for sure. And then being able to like discern like where that condition is based from. Obviously the more dynamic the better, and then obviously that has a lot of implications for agents and everything else too, not just the situation you're describing. Because if you could have the agent do something based on conditional logic that it discerns is useful, would be pretty sweet.
So I like pseudo worked around it by putting searches within the template, but even then I think I'd have to create like searches for each like for each layer, and I don't necessarily know how many layers to start.
But yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other thing on my mind lately has been like visualizing schemas. So this comes from Andrew's page, and this is you probably put this together manually or had someone put it together, but I was playing around with just like exporting. I did this with a little bit of GPT assistance here, but I think there's some feasibility to copy pasting your tags and fields. And it looked like I tried using clone to clipboard, and they gave me way too much information. The idea being that like we need a way to visualize our schemas and ontologies better. So
Did
like,
you, so show what you have here. Is this what am I looking at here?
this here is an ERD, mermaid ERD code diagram.
Yeah. Okay.
Got
it.
And yeah, ChatGPT put this together for me. It's a little like it doesn't quite fit ERD logic. Like it should be like integer var character, like variable character or whatever. But like Tana fields don't, like they have their own naming convention, plain, option.
Yeah.
So I kind of tweaked the use case for it. But
I wonder if there's something from like doing some type of filtering on the JSON export that you could, extract like just the super tags and not the data, or like just the configuration stuff like super tags and fields without,
that's
because
that
GPT is really good about understanding JSON, but it's just extracting it as a big chunk
where we're like, this expands sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I don't know how, but I've had it, but I'm like, okay, it expands. This is what I want, because it's like,
oh my God, I know.
This
One
is
of the first, like I asked for this, like, I know, like over a year ago, I was like, just let me like click the expand on the super tag and show me the fields that are connected. Like, why do I have to open this whole content template thing when it's just, I know those are children of that, essentially, Yeah.
And I don't know how to.
I want that so much.
Well, yes, I swear the other week it was doing it for me. I don't know how, but it was. I don't know if it was like, oh, maybe
they're experimenting with it.
Oh, will this do it? Debug?
I don't think that shows
it.
Yep. It does. Yeah, that's how it's always. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's like I just
I knew I was doing
something.
Like, well, if you close it out, it shows it.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if you could actually like, but you can't like close debug. Actually, what happens if because you can't run a command twice, the same command twice. I was like, I wonder if you could like you could potentially apply like a command to the default tag that applies to all super tags. That is like the button that run a command line command debug node and then like close it somehow just to like get that view, yeah, it's just that's so nice. It's so clean. It's like, that's exactly what I want, to like click down and see that.
I'm going to try and paste into the chat here. Nope. It just pasted cluster, hashtag cluster. Like when I copied this.
What if you did
select children?
What style copy are you doing?
Nope, that's not doing it. I just command K copy link is what I did with it all highlighted.
That'll just be a link. Try. What about copy as Tana paste? That would be at least maybe structured. Does that give?
It gives the tags and then like the personal focus one, but nothing else under that. It doesn't give cluster name, chunk, batcher. Yeah.
Weird. That's weird. And not leads to even. It's interesting.
No, not leads to either. Well, I
wonder if it's getting.
Both those are like, I pasted this in for my own and then just brought over the relevant ones, because this is like extending from something else that
got it.
Wasn't necessarily useful to this example today.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, because I'm like, this would be right now. My approach was just like, all right, here's a search of all my tags, here's a search of all my fields, and like just pasting in the useful ones in the ChatGPT. But like, if I were going to formalize it, I'd want to do it in some way where, like, ideally you could give it like this with like this for what you want to well, I guess that wasn't too bad there. Okay, that did it. So that's a little. What's the
format?
That just gave like,
is it just like dashes?
Gave the fields
marked out. Yeah, got it.
Not even dashes. Just like personal focus, colon.
What if you just made like that was empty of cluster, because that seems to work. Like if you just make a new node that's cluster, I think this will work. Like instead of copying it from the super tag itself, just tag that cluster and then copy that as, like with your cursor right there, copy that as Tana paste. Because then everything's just empty, you know, but it should get all the fields and stuff.
Still only getting that personal focus.
Really?
Yeah.
That's when I do that, it gets
maybe it's one of those like not set, not defined things.
Oh yeah, actually it's like only getting a couple of these fields. You're right. Yeah, that's surprising.
I wonder now that I just like deleted, let's see, copy Tana paste.
What about full contents to clipboard? What does that do? Nope, even less. That's really surprising, actually. Oh, there's some new copy stuff here. Copy owned node content to clipboard. It's a new command. I haven't seen that yet. And the diagnostics too is a new one. Copy agent diagnostics clipboard. Some new commands in there that I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't experimented much with like the exported JSON files and like what those commands, but I've seen some folks in the community like turn them into structured markdown files and stuff like that using some GPT help.
Yeah, there was like the OG
and then deep running backgrounds in Obsidian. Yeah, go ahead.
What's his name? I don't think he's been active in the community for a while.
Brett? We think about Brett with the pink hair avatar?
Yep.
Yeah.
The clip the Tana, and he had a whole like visualization with the JSON.
Yeah, I pinged him a while back, and because somebody else was talking about him, I think I forget who it was, but somebody else was talking about him. We were having a chat, and I like pinged him on, and he jumped back, and he's like, "Hey, I haven't been using Tana for a while. I like had to build my own thing to be like offline and local first," and so he basically just like built something to himself to manage his stuff, which I think is hysterical and like very on brand for him. He was like a crazy cool hacker, dude. I was sad when he like left the community because he was doing really cool things.
Oh
yeah. But yeah, I guess, and I was like, are you going to release it? Can we see it? And he's like, it's pretty far off from that, but I assume that it's something where that it's some combination of like being able to, and he had there was somebody that was doing something like managing everything, like their entire like PKM world entirely in like Visual Code Studio, and then using like local LLM as Copilot to interact with like all of their files in a way that was like similar to how Copilot works to, you know exactly what file to interact with. And I was really curious if that was something that he had built off of, but he was kind of hush hush about it. And I think he built something totally from scratch. I don't think he even like has it off of VSC, but yeah.
Because I think that's one, I think, leverage point of like Obsidian is that everything
totally,
is
because it's just markdown files.
Yeah,
totally.
Yep.
And I've seen people do basically that with their Obsidian library. Is they just run like their entire library through Visual Code Studio, and then they have like access to all their markdown files, but they have Copilot, right there, which as long as you don't get rate limited is great, because it's only $10 a month and it can talk to everything in your like code base. Yeah, but you do get rate limited like quite too often, I should say. Picky, but it's still a great service for $10 a month. But like if you don't get rate, like the alternative is Cursor or Windsurf or whatever, where you like just keep paying for credits as you keep having conversations. There are ways to like be more efficient about it, surely, that I haven't been, but yeah.
So I threw down for a Mac with some GPUs in it. I think M3 is what I got. So like whenever I can, I try and like, it's like, oh, pay $5 for the service. No, I'll run it locally.
Let's go local. Yeah, it's a shame because there's still like I still haven't got, like, my dream is to be able to use a model locally to do like everything through Visual Code Studio. I just haven't had good luck with the agentic features. So Visual Code Studio has their Insiders preview version, and that lets you have the agent functionality, which I've had a ton of success on over the past couple of weeks playing around with. I basically had it build like an entire Swift UI app for me, just like vibe coding, like one step at a time, like the thing that I want. And it's got like very complex animations and like, a bunch of custom SVGs and like all kinds of cool stuff happening in it. But that's really only because of the agent functionality, which again, like Windsurf and Cursor have. But yeah, with Copilot, you can manage your models and you can choose a local model through Ollama, which is basically just a terminal command line, and then load it in like a local, like on local host. And then Visual Code Studio can talk to local host as if it's, a server and make all the same like conversational calls. The conversation like happens in terminal otherwise, but it's really to like plug into other apps. It's very similar to local or Studio LM. I forget what it's called. What's it called? Local Studio. What is the app called? Yeah, LM Studio is what it's called. Okay. Which if you're doing local stuff, you've probably seen or played with. But it's very similar to that, where you just download like 15, 20, 30 gigs, whatever, of the model, and then you can call it directly. But it's really good for the ask stuff. But the agent functionality of like talking to all the files and searching and figuring out what it needs, it's not quite as good there yet. And of course, the models are like a few weeks behind the current stuff. But it'll all, by the end of the year, it's like it'll all be so much better. Like every 2 weeks, I feel like it's better. Like it's crazy. Yeah.
That's what the other day I played around with just like before uploading a YouTube video, just put the entire transcript or audio file, was able to pull the transcript locally. Just found like a Whisper model.
Yeah, great.
It was like 4 lines of code, and I just put it in a Streamlit app. Well, I didn't, GPT did it for me.
Yeah.
Just run the Streamlit locally, drag in my file. A couple seconds later, I got a full, 2-hour transcript.
Yeah,
with timestamps.
Incredible, man. The amount of like money that like I have seen flow through like studios for transcripts over the past like 10 years, that like they don't have to spend anymore. It's crazy, What you've been doing a lot with Streamlit. I feel like that's what the CSV thing is in, and a couple of right, like I haven't popped around there.
That's my go-to, mostly for, I guess, the lack of knowledge of much else. Where it's like I taught myself some Python back in college, used it a little bit when I was working for the tech company, and then just it's like, all right, I never really learned any other languages. Like, oh, I can, and then Streamlit's like you can host pretty much it's a single Python file, and you could host it online for free. So it's like
basically like does what. It's like React and JavaScript. All like the alt ones are using like React and JavaScript to run like similar functions. But like if you're familiar and already know Python, it's great. That was actually the first thing that Chat wanted to build my app in was Python, and it made like Mac OS. Like I want this to look a little more native. And then I was like, okay, like let's do it in Swift instead. And I like kind of redid, and I was like, okay, that's like looking better. And like I'm much more of a designer than a developer, so like much more care about the aesthetics than like anything else. But like to get things to look more native, it was like, oh, you have to like use the native language, But that's where like a real programmer would come in and be like, obviously, but
So I've been playing around with iterations of like some of the tools that I made, and just inspired by some random video. I don't know if it was Twitter or TikTok or YouTube. But like, oh yeah, like try Claude instead. And like threw it in Claude, and it totally like upgraded the aesthetics of it. Made it into multiple pages instead of one. So I might eventually I'll probably just merge all of my tools into a single URL with Streamlit, but have
Yeah.
like multi pages
makes
on there.
sense.
So you could just like select, all right, CSV to Tana, Tana's to CSV, ChatGPT
Yeah.
history to Tana paste, just whatever
Yeah.
conversion.
Are you? I'm also like tinkering around with the ChatGPT to Tana. Are you doing like the export of GPT to how?
Yep.
Yeah.
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 That
Like
was
the
actually the
what is it, like a
first one.
JSON file or something that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the first one I ever made.
I don't even know if I saw that actually. I didn't even mean that. I
Let's
should
see.
look at that since I've been working on one of these.
I think
Where's
I think I called ChatGPTana. Stream.
ChatGPT. That's fine. Where was I playing with that? I was playing with that and I was trying to figure out, because obviously what would be fucking sweet is if they let us like it'd be so cool if we could just import it into like the Tana AI chat format, because it's like more special, like how it has the like different colors and the blocks that's like makes it more clear where the assistant was and like who the user is. But I don't know where I was tinkering with this. I guess it's not decent in there. Maybe I deleted it. But I was trying to play with, okay, how can like I make it say like, what's the best way to do like should I hashtag everything that I asked versus what, like, should I have, hashtag AI dash assistant, hashtag AI dash, user, to see both sides of the conversation easily. And then should I like number all like the entire sequence? So cute with all these emojis. Makes me want to donut.
You mean how to organize your chats? Like when they get imported?
Let's see that file.
Yep. So
Nice.
you just drag
and
in.
then, so what's the output of this look like?
Let's see. I wonder if I have any chat. Where would I have that buried?
Oh, I was working on one from TypingMind too, because I was using that as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I altered this because I was actually working with someone who needed a custom format. So we changed it into like split up each question answer because when it was bringing in an entire chat, it was way too much text. So splitting it up into question answer, then we could query ChatGPT question, and I think
that's pretty smart. Yeah,
and it got the conversation too. So then you could search by conversation, question answer, and add some other fields to it.
And what I was trying to add was like figure out how many total queries there was, and then do like a padded number, like 001, 002, whatever, to keep the chronology of the conversation in order, if that makes sense, so that I could like load it and then see like, here's the whole conversation. And then I was doing it as like, instead of the question as a group, which is actually quite smart, I was doing it as just like 001. Underneath that was a child node that was, the question hashtag user, and then the answer hashtag assistant, and then their response or whatever. But I like the idea of like keeping it as a block like that with like grouping it in that way. It's a good tactic. So you have like the full conversation there.
This would allow you to filter then, because it does.
Oh, that's interesting.
The question time.
Got it. So you just organize by time. Yes. name and stuff like that, or just like placeholders for other info to go?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I make and tinker with so much that like
Totally.
when I set it aside and go back to it, then it's just like
Totally.
I think the question name was an attempt. Yeah, because I built it out in the client system was just an AI summarization of the question answer, so that it would it was like a build title with fields thing that we played around with. I guess I didn't finish building it out on my end. I built it out on her end.
Got it.
And yeah, it would summarize the question answer into a single statement, which was
Got it. Makes sense.
It was okay because like there was a lot of question answers where it's like filler words where it's like, no, I didn't mean that. It's
Totally.
like when you're going back and forth, it's like, yeah, not the most relevant data sometimes.
See if I can trying to like see what I ended up doing with this. Export to use things, export chats.
But I'd also made a manual chat function where like you could almost just highlight a conversation directly from like a ChatGPT window.
Yeah,
paste it there, and then it would convert into a similar format. Yeah, again, I kind of set that aside. I'm not sure if it's super robust at the moment.
Oh boy. See if I can see if this does anything. No, unfinished. Yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, I had I was I'll show you what it looked like. Find a good like one sec. What is this nonsense? Well, I just showed you without a thing loaded, but it was like very incomplete, but was like, and this was for like TypingMind, which was a I was using it instead of GPT. The idea was that you like put your key in, node ID, and then you could like run it all on the web and then just push it directly to your API or to your space. But it was like you'd have a chat ID, a user ID, and then an assistant ID. Chats would load here, then have like a preview, and then you could push to send it. But never completed it. I still need to return to it and finish that up. But then I was like, wait, I should really just do this for also ChatGPT because I want all my conversations out of both of those platforms. Like all those platforms just like organized in Tana nicely. What I really want is for them to like open up the ability to, again, just like make it as if I had the conversation with Tana's AI so that I can like continue, the conversation with Tana's AI. Like that'd be pretty sweet if you could like import your ChatGPT JSON into like an AI chats node, and then you got the same like interface as if you'd started the conversation in Tana. That way you could like bring all your old chats over, Oh,
that's interesting. That would.
But as far as I know, they haven't opened that up in any way to like, tag something as an AI chat.
Yeah.
I should probably request that or like put that on ideas or something because, yeah.
Well, here's an interesting test.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Where am I going?
Well, actually, no, maybe you're not. I thought you were going to do something slightly different.
Okay. And then let's say, I'm curious to see what this, oh no, I put that in that's not the one. I put that in the template. Oh, that's cool. Did that just? But it does add. So these work as far as the template. Like that wasn't what I was looking to do.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's cool actually. That's good to know. Yeah.
All right. So I have, which one's the reference? Crap. Did it just duplicate them?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. There's a chat. Cool. Let's run a command. See what happens here. I kind of don't care what happens there, but it did something. All right. And then what I want to do is open the GPT Log Monitor. And I want to see.
Can't see that over here. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I want to see what it passed. So this, because you're talking about, all right, we can't put it in chat format, but what is AI seeing in chat format? And it looks like it's seeing this, which is just some fields.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, look up strings. Generate chat title. Oh no, yeah, that's the chat. So
so that's interesting. Yeah, like that I think I just saw it actually. It was like the what was it? Yeah, where it has like, role, like, so that's kind of it, right? It's like role user versus role system or assistant or whatever it calls it there. I guess it calls it system. But like that's kind of like, that'd be the interesting thing, is to, if you could figure out how to extract like that and then turn the output of
this is in
conversion from GPT into like this format and then bring it into Tana, and then it understands that like what you're talking about is a chat thread as opposed to regular nodes.
This stuff is in the ChatGPT JSON file too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So it is at least
it'd be probably easier to like one-to-one them, Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's always some unique stuff within the ChatGPT stuff too. Like the one I think I still haven't totally solved, because partially I just didn't need to at the time, was Canvas, ChatGPT Canvas, where it creates like a separate document that's like its own unique. It's like a JSON within a JSON. So it's just another layer of formatting I need to code in to handle it properly.
Or any other images, quite frankly, that like get called in. Like it does get much trickier when it's more than text, for sure.
Images get stored in a separate folder, like when you download your history, and then I guess it calls from that folder.
Yeah, it's just like getting that. Like I don't actually know because I haven't tried it, but I don't know if like the Tana import tools will bring in like attachments and media. Like if you do an import, if it will pull all that in. I've never tried it. Because they're like pretty like old too, the like JSON importer tools for like Rome and stuff like that people were using like earlier in the day. I don't think they've been like touched in like 2 years, honestly. But they're like on GitHub. Like I was scoping them out recently because I was like looking for a way to bring in more nodes than like, Tana Paste could do, or even like, is the best way going to be to like bring it in through API or whatever. And I was like, how do I do like a lot more than what like, the easy methods would be? And it has stuff, but I feel like it's probably just text. But yeah, I haven't tried.
Yeah, I was playing around with let's see. I think it's in this workspace. Colorer. That's a weird.
What does this do?
I don't know why that's there. Yeah.
Yeah, what is this do?
That is not a reddish orange. Let's see.
It is a color black though, which is set up there. Oh, is that? Well, FF 4500 probably is though. Yeah, like that's
This-
probably reddish
well,
orange.
I don't know what happened to this field. That should not be an actual number there. That should be, it should say like hex code.
Mhm.
Get color. Let's see. Hex code. Yeah. So I need to rename that field. I don't know why it got changed.
Mm.
Okay. There we go. Cool.
Huh.
Yeah. So I found this free
So
API.
color API.
But what sucks about this though is that it returns an SVG, and Tana can handle SVGs when manually imported. It turns it into an image, like an image block. This isn't turning into an image block. So if you try to do anything,
what is that?
It's a pseudo SVG that is very delicate. Watch.
I see.
If I click on it,
Oh, it's gone. Oh, wow.
it's gone.
Wow.
I could get it again. So it creates like this like pseudo temporary SVG, very fragile node. But if you attempt to run any commands or click on it, it immediately goes away. Yeah.
I wonder if there's like another layer of API you could do with like what's that? I think there's a service that there's like those conversion, there's like web conversion tools, and I wonder if there's an API that could just convert that like as part of that step, is to then send the result of that to, you know, an SVG to PNG converter or something, to then bring it in as something that it would like better. Wow. So you're like you're pushing, you're modifying to what's currently there. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it all comes from just the color-api.com. They got a webhook that you could just send hex code or send different things, and it'll return like the name, the color block, whatever.
Cool. And the color block is the SVG that's floating there?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. That's really fun. Yeah. Was there, what was the, like, was it just tinkering, or was like there like a project, or like, I'm curious as to like what like use cases there could be to like, because it's really interesting.
Yeah. I was chatting with Nick and Simon, and both of them do design related stuff. And it started actually with a Figma import. So I created a make.com where I was able to import all of the, like, just the different components within a Figma file.
Sure.
I did that, and then I ran it by them, and they're like,
what was the output?
Oh, geez, I might even do I have that in here?
Like, what did make.com give you afterwards?
Do a Figma here. Figma Tana template. Yeah, here we go. Do I not have an example here? Leave the example of my own design too. This is what I moved on to then was getting just design tokens. So like, like I guess design tokens are like a standard data format for passing like color variables or different variables within designs, whether that's like an application, or I mean, you're familiar with design, right? So you're aware of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to go too deep in the backstory then. So could get like the JSON design tokens with a plugin within Figma, and then I made a design token transformer tool, which I'm waiting on feedback from those guys on. So I haven't really released this yet. And then it's going to have to do its load thing. But the idea is that you could go from Figma JSON to Tana paste it in Tana, and then go from, say, Tana paste to Affinity or Adobe. So then you could have all of your design tokens.
Stash all your tokens in Tana. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
What I was actually pulling from I got to figure out where's this Figma. Did I not? I guess the examples are in a different workspace.
Cool.
But yeah, it was like container component, like just all the different. Yeah, I started with getting the file and then each layer down, so it would grab, the container,
totally.
the text, and the shape that's within that container, all the color information for those different components.
Yeah,
but then once it was in here, it was kind of one of those like, all right, let's test this out and then see what comes of it. It's like, well, this information isn't useful, but the color information is like, oh, okay, so let's see. Oh, design tokens, they're a thing. All right, let's do that. Oh, what would it look like just to be able to grab colors on the fly? Because like, all right, now that I have these values, all right, that's cool. But if I do like a color or throw the code in there, now I got the block.
You can actually see what it looks like. Yeah,
and that's awesome. Where like, oh, if this was an actual image, then we could put that as the banner, which would allow us to put this into card view, which is a lot friendlier to work with from a designer standpoint.
Totally. And then you could like do a Tana Publish page of like that detail, all those details, and have it all just tied into APIs to update on the fly when things change. Yeah.
Share that with your clients, so forth. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I have a big big Webflow project that I was like tracking everything in Tana for, and still am. But it's like, it's really interesting because a lot of like the Tana concepts like map super cleanly with like how Webflow works, right? Because Webflow is like very database oriented in the way that you build sites. So like everything can be sort of like really easily templatized, and like, you can say like, okay, pull from this part of the CMS over here. And that all like tracks neatly to like, okay, just add a tag for that and like put the search node in. And like, then you can find all the things that are of that type for that page. It's like, and just a couple of the other folks from the ADHD meetup are like Webflow junkies too. Like they work in that like kind of all day, and they had some cool stuff. It was Penny and Matt that had some cool stuff for like Webflow related. I was like looking at some of their, they shared a few screenshots of how we organized the stuff, and they were doing some really cool stuff that I pulled from as well. But yeah, it's like it's one of the, it's like one of the core problems in what they were in office hours. It's like the ton is so horizontal, like it has so many different verticals it can be in, and like design is just one of them. And like, people in the design world are like, cool, give me like, the color blocks and like all that. And then like, a doctor's like, okay, but what about like, this? So it's a cool problem that they have.
And so I think I hopped on a very short, I hopped on a quick call with a lawyer who was talking about like, oh, how can I use this? I'm like, oh yeah, he's talking about articles, rules of law.
Yeah, it's like, it's so like one of my favorite things is like talking to somebody, letting them talk for a while, and then being like, okay, here's the super tags you should start with, like here's how to like take everything you just told me and turn it into structured information, like, yeah. And even like just when we're like, and it's so like the crazy part is that like essentially all that is like what every app on your phone is it's just like structured data presented in an interesting way, And like now that like structured data is so easy to build in Tana, it's like, well, why do I need all these apps when I can just build that thing? Like that whole app is just one super tag, like we track like a good example is like we track like wines that we would like or whatever in an app. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's just like 7 or 8 fields that we could be doing in Tana instead, like it's like the region, whatever. And it's, and then it's like, yeah.
That's what I feel like. In every office, I feel like go back to it again. I don't know if you've seen Nick's Copilot tool within his Tana 1 template.
Oh yeah, I saw like one of the previews that he posted of that, where it's just like essentially, I didn't dig too deep into it, but it's like essentially trained on like the like docs and everything. Yeah, give me like a good demo of it. Yeah.
So let's see if I could just build with Copilot here. So what were you saying? Build me a system for wine tasting and tracking.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, these seem like a lot of the tags I used. Yeah, yeah. So I think this looks like it's got like an example too that it's built.
Oh yeah, no, it's wild. So we'll take that. Now let's say I just bring it here.
Yeah.
So we got wine, tasting notes, producer, region. Then we got like the fields. That's what I chatted with him about maybe breaking these down so it puts them as separate nodes. Because there's a little bit of, given the limitation of Tana Paste, we can't format a field or we can't configure a field in Paste. We have to do it afterwards. So like, there's some manual formatting that needs to be done. That I gave a ton of fields for this. This is wild.
I mean, we've got a lot of those fields in ours. Yeah.
Sample data, then it formats like, okay, this is what it could look like. Oh, here, tasting notes. Links back to the wine.
Yeah. It's great.
Producers.
I mean, and they have to like, they're surely going to like build this in like before the year's out, like there's no way they don't do that as just like part of the core feature set is like describe what you want to make. We'll build it for you all native. And then just like go that extra step of like basically doing the copy paste out of, doing that copy paste from Tana Paste for you,
directly into
that. Yeah.
But this is what I was talking with Nick about just the other day. Then is like to go a layer further, and this I was thinking around myself.
Visual for it, totally.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's so cool how you're doing this markdown output or Tana Paste output within your within the agent. It's like this is a set. Like there's a couple different types. This is mermaid ERD, but you could use plant UML. There's a lot of different visualization code bases. So I'm like,
basically,
like, you have all the logic in there. If we figure out like a good visual form of it, this would be even more helpful to see at a glance. Like, okay,
especially for a new user who's just like builds the thing and like, wait, how does this all work? And then totally. Because if the agent can turn it into Tana Paste, there's no reason it can't also just turn it into that with a different button. Yeah, totally. 100%.
Going back to like the image sort of thing, you could send this to some sort of, I imagine they already exist, but like, some sort of webhook that returns then a JPEG of that visualization. So then it would ideally like have it, in one of these tabs would be like, oh, this is is your schema overview image. Oh, you want to tweak it? Just go back, chat with this, press a button, it gets you the new image of the new schema,
and it refreshes it. Yeah, I mean, frankly, it'd be sweet if they like took a design cue out of like Fizz and Andrew's and Aaron's like design, because I like their design is so clean.
This is gorgeous.
Like it's a perfect aesthetic, like if they could just like model after this, Yeah. And then like what would be super ideal is if like Tana got native like icon libraries that weren't the emojis, and then like the icons that are shown in those bottom right corners become the icons for the tags, and then those icons for the tags color track with whatever the color of the super tag is, right? And then like I just think there's so much more. I haven't like done it in like new workspaces I've built. I use like all the nucleo icons and like color them, and it's just like the aesthetic is so much nicer than the emojis. But in like my other workspaces, it's like, okay, like the emojis are easier or whatever. I had started with them. I need to at some point 1 month go in and just like spend a few days and turn them all into SVGs. But it'd be so clean if like, especially taking that we're looking at as the template for it for that generation, to just like have that, like it's so easy for a new user to be like, oh, it's the stopwatch, like that's where the time frame super tag is or whatever, you know.
Yeah, some sort of
like a great
visual indicator that
totally.
prompts us a little easier. Are you?
Yeah,
you're doing a bunch of stuff with CSS.
Yeah.
Do you want to show any of that?
I have like, well, I guess you could like look at, let me see what would be good to, I guess I could just like show, yeah.
I haven't touched that at all with Tana. So I'm curious to see, even if just like an intro to CSS or intro to Tana CSS, like where you would recommend people jumping into it if they wanted to do something.
Well, I mean, to tinker with it. So like, this is just like what the aesthetic of mine is. And like, this is just like my templates zone. Let me see if I can find any super tag somewhere.
So is that like even right off the bat, like that's dark theme, but that's your own dark theme? It's like
essentially,
like a slightly slate gray sort of thing going on.
Mostly it's just like, it might be hard to see in the thing, but mostly it's like, here, I can maybe make it bigger. Like I just wanted like some separation between like where the breadcrumbs were at the top, and I wanted like the toolbars slightly darker and a different color, and I wanted like the configuration tab to be a different color so that like it just pops a little bit more. There's a lot of like other like little changes, like like my tables are like very different.
Oh yeah.
So I did a lot of work on tables. I mean, I should pull up my style stock, and because then I would really see like what all the stuff. So there's there's 14 up to 1,400 lines of changes here, and a lot of these, like frankly, like may or may not still be active.
I'm just seeing
your just like reading through.
Oh, okay.
Just like reading through some of them. Oh yeah, like grouped lists. I do a lot of like I do some changes for like, oh, I don't know what's in here. I'm trying to see like if I know there's nothing to group this by, so this isn't going to be a good example. But like if I group by, I don't know, creative time, so like there's let me see if there's a better thing. Yeah, so like I have like, you know,
around the
just like more pleasing like group stuff. This like soft fade for the reference area that kind of grows and expands. I hide a lot of the like little circles of like help, you know, now that I've like seen those, I don't like seeing them. Fields, yeah, like fields on, like let's just add something. I don't even know what's in here. I do like a focus session, yeah. So like the fields, like I like the fields having like a background. So just like to separate, like, oh, this is where the fields are, versus like without that, they all just kind of like blend together, which I disliked. Another one is, I don't know if they've changed this or not by now, but like something that had bothered me was, let's see if I can find a good example of it. Like the node, like the gaps between the nodes are not like the same based on, like I just wanted all of them to be equal spacing. That's one of the first things I changed. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. There's so many. There's like references that I've tweaked, all the links I've tweaked. I wanted like links to be a different color.
But then how do you apply it? Like, what's the process of actually?
Yeah, so that's
a file somewhere.
Yeah, let me switch into this. Something else. Let's go window. So let's see that share again. So there's like this is like the it's like in the Tana.app. It's like the Electron source file that has like the function of creating the window. And then I like it frameless. Like I don't like the little stoplights on the top corner and the extra like pixels that it takes. It's like, 20 pixels, whatever, but I just think it's a little cleaner, just frameless. So I add this modification and then I inject like custom, like there's basically a function that injects CSS on launch that I had like GPT help me figure out how to do for an Electron app based on a few like people asking about this on Stack Overflow. So there was like some component of research, some like ChatGPT. I just figured out that you can just add this function and it also like prints to console. So it knows, if it works or not. But this basically just loads an additional CSS file like at the point of opening the desktop app, similar to how like running a PWA app would do. Like you can just use like a Chrome extension to do that. But it works like pretty reliably. You just put like basically your own URL there. But that's like, it's definitely like do some hacking of the like .app. But it allows you to like then kind of like the whole app is your sort of playground. And again, like there's, almost 1,500 lines in there, but I guarantee you like 20% of them have been like changed and are no longer needed or whatever. I haven't gone in and cleaned it up. I just sort of like add new things when they show up or bother me or whatever. But yeah, some of them are like making the banner sizes smaller or whatever. The most like impactful ones though are the debug when you debug a publish node, because you can add CSS to publish nodes. If there's like publish settings under debug node for your published node, and then you can load custom stuff to just sort of like brand the page a little bit more and make like the navigation more easy to understand, shrink the banner, change the like header format and stuff. So there's a lot that we do to like publish pages.
You have any examples of that you could share?
They're mostly client-facing stuff that I shouldn't probably share. Yeah. Just trying to think if there's a good, easy one. Yeah, that's probably I shouldn't share that either. But yeah, I'd have to make something, and it would take a minute to get it all right. Like publish pages are so finicky, but like once you learn their little quirks, then like it's great, but they're definitely finicky. And we'll get some love hopefully this year. Yeah.